Mr. Dazi will take over on that.
So, Honorable Chair, Esploco was set up as a subsidiary of the corporation to take commercial interest in blocks that has high prospectivity. So, like my colleague said, most of the stake that we've taken are yet to start producing. Fortunately for us, last year we acquired stakes in Jubilee and 10 commercial. We bought some of the asset that Nadakon was divesting. And so currently we have an asset that is producing. And so subsequent financials from Esploco we see revenue recorded.
Now, when you're consolidating the expenditure of expenditure of Esploco, where do you treat it? Do you treat it under general expenses or cost of sales?
Honorable Chair, we do capitalize those ones.
Come again?
We do capitalize them.
You capitalize the expenditure?
Yes, sir.
So we cannot. You don't capitalize it, or you capitalize it?
So, Honorable, we do capitalize the expenditure of Esploco.
Okay.
If we're having the Esploco, 1 second, let me just so there are some project expenditure that we have there. All right. All right. Confirm, sir.
What are you confirming, sir?
So,
Honorable members, order.
Honorable, in our accounts, we have the general expenditure, admin expenditure, then we have a petroleum project expenditure as well.
Okay.
And then for some of the expenditures like that of the Esploco, those ones we do capitalize them.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that if that is the case, then you cannot account for Esploco expenditure under general and administrative expenses.
Honorable, you are right. I think I'll beg to withdraw that comment. Just so cross-checking, been a bit going back. What I've seen, that these are coming more from the Prestia.
Okay.
Prestia, that's where we're having the challenge.
Okay, all right. So then the associate companies are?
20. Associated. So at that time we had Airtel.
Airtel?
Yes, sir.
The mobile company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And they made loss?
Yes.
So you share the loss?
Yes, sir.
What percentage were you having in Airtel?
At that time we were having 25% stake.
25%. So do you still have shares in the Airtel?
No, essentially we've been diluted to virtually zero.
Okay, okay. And then the joint venture?
So the joint venture companies activity we had, then the Sulpon Offshore, okay, and then Technip Engineering.
Okay. And they've also made losses?
Sulpon Offshore, yes. And then the Technip too, we had the same issue.
All right. I just want to know what accounted for the loss in 2016, and
all right, sir.
I've gotten the explanation. Ranke.
Thank you, Chairman. I also want to find out whether you are making profit or loss at the Mole facility.
Now. Amen. Now. Mole is still lost. Mole is still lost. Now. Page 4. Yes, now.
I don't. When are you going to divest yourself from this?
Mole, we need a profit. Okay.
When?
So
When did you make the profit?
So, Mole, we had a small profit in 2016 of 81,000. 81,000.
81,000.
Yes, sir.
And what is the situation now in 2021?
The 2021, we have a loss again, effect from the COVID, and then, but it's been a small thing all along. The intention has been to divest, so we are not pumping in any new money into Mali.
So you, in 2021, you made a loss too?
Yes, we made a loss.
Was it because of COVID?
It's a part. The point is that it's been going down.
Please. Order.
That's it.
Order. Would you please maintain order and discipline?
So,
yes, can you answer my question?
It's due to low occupancy. Low occupancy.
Yeah, no, please. I heard you say alone. That's why I wanted to be. I heard you say alone that it was a loss. That's why I wanted you to.
Yeah. Honorable Chair, what I'm saying is that in 2016, yes, in 2021, we're looking at the accounts and we had a loss. The subsidiary reason that they've given us is low occupancy.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
My real problem is that you were established merely to look for oil, and you divested into so many areas, including running hotels and Momo and what have you and all that. So when are you going to divest from these activities that are not making profit?
Honorable Chair, a lot of these investments are legacy investments. These are investments that were made in the 90s. And if you look at the list of companies that Gnpc had investments in, most of them have largely been divested. I mean, we had EcoBank, we had Total, we had Unipetrol. Most of them, the ones that were juicy have been divested. The ones that currently sit on our books are the ones that we're having a bit of challenge divesting. The strategy is to divest ourselves of a lot of these non-related entities.
My question was, when are you going to divest of yourself of these loss-making entities? So, you seems to have very convenient to divest of those that were making profit for you and left the ones that are making losses. So when are you going to do that?
So, Honorable Chair, it's not an issue of convenience. In 2017, we came to the House. In fact, we appeared before the Select Committee for Mines and Energy, and the intention at the time was to divest ourselves of Prestia Sankofa. But the committee prevailed on us to basically revamp and get the plant running before we look at divesting. So some of the reasons are not really Gnpc's own making. Some of them are, if I can call it, extraneous or external factors that have basically prevailed on us to ensure that these companies continue to run for the benefit of the communities in which they operate.
In 2017, you were asked to revamp the companies, especially Prestia Gold Mine, and in 2022, it's still making losses. So I'm not sure you are looking at the issue with any seriousness. That's how I see it, because that is 5 years ago, and I'm worried that these companies are making losses, and there doesn't seem to be any way they'll be turned around. So please, divest of them. These extraneous or external factors that you are talking about, you have not told this committee what it is.
Yes, so Honorable Chair, I don't think, Gnpc wants to keep this asset because, obviously if they are not making profit, we want to divest of it. And the idea is for us to focus on our core business. The challenge you have with loss-making entities is that if you go to the market to sell, you end up selling at a huge discount. Probably you may have to give them away. So the idea is you keep them, you try to bring them to a profit level so that you get some of the investment that you've made in the company. And so that's the strategy. So in the specific case of Prisia Sankofa, the plant has been revamped. It's now currently running. And so I believe that within the next few years, we should find a good buyer to buy the asset.
Can you look for a buyer for the motel so that it will run properly and will make profit? I don't believe in people doing things that they are not made to do and then they don't run it well. So please, if you can think of divesting Molly, maybe some of the MPs from the area who to run it profitably as private businessmen.
So, Honorable Chair, I need to clarify. GNPC do not run those companies. Those companies are investment. They have their own management. And so, GNPC doesn't have the direct. We are just an investor, a shareholder. But the management and everything is done separately by individuals not linked to GNPC. It's akin to you buying shares in a company. You don't really run. We just happen to be the majority shareholder in most of those companies, but we don't run them directly.
If you are the majority shareholder, you take major decisions, and therefore it's not as if those who are running are not under your control or direction. And my worry is that we should not be making do something about it. Even if you sell it for a sum, you avoid making losses every year.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rankin. I know you also undertake social corporate responsibility or corporate social responsibility. How do you select the beneficiaries?
Honorable Chair, there's a foundation that is set up with its own board of trustees, which is also a subsidiary of Gnpc, that basically caters for the CSI project. And so if we want to get into the fine details, we probably may have to.
So if I want Gnpc to support a community, my constituency, how do I go about it?
You have to write to the foundation, but I'm not too sure about how the criteria are. Like I said, it's a subsidiary. It's run separately from Gnpc. It has its own board of trustees, so we probably can. Yeah, we can find out more information and make them available to the committee.
Well, I have tried, but I was not successful.
I'm sorry. I will escalate it to the chief executive.
Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Just on this, it looks like most of the works done by the foundation is centered in and around the western part of the country. Well, mainly because that is where we get oil. But the oil is a property of the state, and the people in Ketu, people in Imprest, we are all, yes, we are all citizens of Ghana. So please, let's see how we are able to spread the foundation support. I mean, whilst we contribute to promoting tourism and adding money to, somebody else is bringing oil. I mean, the tourism money, we all share it equally. And the oil money, we all must be seen to be sharing it equally. Thank you.
Honorable
Point well taken, but I just want to say that most of the projects are spread across the country. I know boreholes have been made in the north, astroturfs, schools have been built across the country. But like I said, we can get a foundation to appear before the committee and provide additional information.
Let me take the last one from Ntana, that will move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to the question ranking asked in the matter of the kind of investment you engage in, I do know that some were jailed in this country for having invested in an area our Supreme Court felt that it was outside the ambit of their operations. In specific cases, Chachu Chikata. My expectation is that the Gnpc, you know, haven't taken into consideration what happened to Chachu, wouldn't be investing in areas that, strictly speaking, is not seen to be bordered in the core mandate of the Gnpc. Even though you indicated it's a legacy investment, one would expect that you wouldn't be pumping monies into such investment because of the decision that was taken by the Supreme Court in the matter of Chachu Chikata. What do you have to say about that?
Honorable Chair, I'm not too familiar with the fine details of Mr. Chikata's case, but I'll pass on the sentiments of the committee to management and of course to the board.
Chairman, I'll give you the benefits of the doubt. It was a popular case in this country, and haven't you working with Gnpc, you should be conversant with the reasons, because he had been the head of that institution for several years, and the case was a public case, which attracted international attention. So I'm surprised you're saying that you are not conversant with the reason. Maybe if I refresh your mind.
No, Honorable Chair, if I can, I know about the case. I meant the fine details of the case. That was what I meant. And I'm appearing before a house of record. I don't want to misspeak. Oh.
Let's move forward. Honorable Kisi, you are taking paragraph 930.
Well, pardon me. I'm on 930, if you can turn your pages to that. There's I think, a natural problem in Ghana, unfortunately, with some of our corporations, and you haven't escaped the issue. According to Section 95 of the Public Financial Management Act, in 2016, Act 921, the governing body of a public corporation or a state-owned enterprise shall, and I'll state the two key things, cause to be prepared not later than 2 months after the end of the financial year, an annual account in respect of the financial year. And then 2, submit to the minister not later than 4 months after the end of the financial year, an audited financial statement. Unfortunately, you've been delaying. You delayed in 2015, you delayed in 2016. May I find out why? And if you even understand the ramifications in terms of the cascading effect. Once you delay, it delays Minister of Finance in fulfilling his or her obligation as well. So help me understand why this is becoming a very consistent, regular behavior of such a fine corporation. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, I believe the intention of Gnpc has never been to go against this timeline, but from the practicing accountant position, I want to lay bare some of the practical issues that confront us. And is a cry that we've been making. The appointments are done on yearly basis. And so normally what has happened is that if, let's say, there's a backlog, essentially it does affect you. If I give a case in point as we have now, the 2020 audit, the appointment happened somewhere in June. The auditor himself, came on to start work only in October. So when it happens that way, that means that there's already a backlog, an issue. The timing is said that you cannot meet it. And so it does cascade. What we are doing is that we have actually been engaging the Auditor General, and our plea has been that if it's possible, because the size of Gnpc, we can appoint the auditor for Gnpc maybe for a 5-year period, so that he will have the opportunity to do interim audits, like how the listed companies they do it. Because if we wait till, let's say, the end of the period, and we are given an appointment, the GMP doesn't appoint its own auditors. The Auditor General does the appointment. So let's say they appoint the auditor in, let's say, in March. We are supposed to present the account, sign one. The law will say that in April. Already we are nearly missing the target. Around that time, almost all the auditing firms are very busy. And so by the time they can really come on board, you are talking about somewhere June. Then we also have the size of Gnpc, which is big. So the audit too tends to take some time. So these are some of the practical challenges that we are engaging them so that we'll be able to solve it. I'm not happy that it's announced that Gnpc, we cannot meet the deadline. It's the law, and we are trying to work around it in such a way that we'll be able to meet it. Thank you, sir.
The likes of BP, British Petroleum, and others may have a similar problem. Is that what you're telling me today?
Honorable, no, that is not what I mean. What I'm saying is that if we have large organizations, what they do is to have a continuous audit process. In our case, we do it every year. So we do it a year, it must end, clean cut-off, then we start again. You don't have control of who is coming in as your next auditor, essentially. In a commercial environment, the appointment is done by the board, they give them the time, and so there's some form of control. In our case, it's not so. So I'm just trying to bring out some of the practical challenges that confront us and as the accountants on the job, and we are also looking actively at how we can resolve this issue so that all the time going forward, our accounts can be on time.
Sorry, I want to be difficult today. The chronic nature of it is worrying. And I really think that, one, does the law stop you from doing an internal work before the appointed auditor is brought to you? Is it possible to do your homework and be ready? Is that possible? And more importantly, you are the shining star in terms of corporations in this country. So if you don't get it right, then all of us will follow suit. So I'm pleading, I want the human element is one. There should be a systemic approach to solving this problem. And in your narrative, unfortunately, I'm not hearing the other side. What systems you are putting in place? Fortunately, we're moving to digitalization, modernization of our systems. And what you're telling me is just the human element in our accounting process. So please, I want to hear what other steps you are making. I beg you.
All right. So thank you, Chair. What we've done in Gnpc in terms of processes, we've looked at improving our systems. We've now moved to use SAP HANA, which is an ERP for our processes. Formerly, it used to be a smaller system. Now we are trying to integrate the entire organization. What we are experiencing is that we had a balance sheet at the time that was maybe about 100 millions. Now we're talking about, come 2021, when we come here, you see the balance sheet of Gnpc, we are talking about 2 billion. So it's big. And so we are putting in these structures. Again, in terms of systems, we the finance, we are looking at how we are improving that system. And this idea of even having an independent auditor come in, we've explored it, which would mean that an independent auditor will come in and do the interim before the Auditor General does his appointment. But we had that discussion with one of our auditors. Again, we are carrying it forward. What I'm just trying to come out clear that we want to do everything in our power so that Gnpc, when they announce the accounts of Gnpc, 20 April, it will be ready like all other entities have it.
How is this affecting your investments? Because the delay certainly will affect your investment in terms of investors who want to have a report to look at, a timely report. How is that affecting you so far?
I think so far the investors have come to understand and appreciate our challenges. We have interim management account that we furnish them with. So as we sit here, we have the 2021 account draft, not audited though, but at least we have it available. And they know that we have a system that churns out these numbers. So this is really what we have put in place. We are working towards making sure that we are in compliance with the law. That is what I want to assure the House. Okay.
There was a question on the floor, I think, about last week, and Mr. Speaker gave an analogy, whether you can be a grandfather without a grandchild. This goes to, please, I've forgotten your name, sorry. Joseph Dadzi. Exploration and production of oil, which is more significant? And are both very important? Because there's always arguments about this. If you can clear my mind about it. Thank you very much.
So, Honorable Chair, so that you're asking about exploration and production as two separate activities. Is that what the question is about?
There was an argument that somebody is producing or produced 2 more wells, or had production from 2 more wells. And then another entity says, we set up the, the means, the contract. So I want to be clear, exploration, if you don't explore, you can't produce, right? Yes, but it seems the public is confused about those 2 things.
Are you the one confused or the public? Yes. Or you want to lead? I disallow that question. I disallow it. And he knows why I disallow it.
He was on radio talking about it today. TV.
Yeah, you are on TV with Adam Agbana.
Yeah.
So you want to use this platform to correct the wrongs that you did on TV. Anyway, let me find out from you, the Director of Finance. When auditors come, they are coming to audit the financial statements of the company. Do you usually get the accounts ready, the financial statement? Do you get it ready for them to audit when they come?
Yes, sir.
So what happened in 2015 account was signed. The auditors are saying that the financial statement for 2015 was signed in December 2016. And that of 2016 was signed in October 2017. What happened in those 2 years where the financial statement was ready in October and December for the auditors to audit?
Honorable Chair, as I said, Gnpc was growing at that time. And so one of the key things is as I said earlier, is the appointment time. If the appointment comes late.
Appointment of what?
The appointment of the auditor, external auditor.
But that should not affect the signing of your account. The management will have to prepare the accounts ready.
Yes, sir.
So if your account is ready in December, the appointment of the auditor will not affect. In fact, if the auditor was appointed in March 2016, the account of 2015 would have been ready for him to audit. Because you yourself were not ready. You only signed the account in December 2016.
All right. So
that is what the auditors have captured.
All right. So that's why, Honorable Chair, that's why I'm saying that where there's a backlog, it has an effect. So, and the point is that until that account is signed, the Auditor General is not going to give the appointment of a new account. So when it happens that way, that means that we already delayed. And then also, as I said, the size of GMPC was growing. So you have situation where it's still growing, and it's still growing. So again, the time that they do spend to do the audit, the time that they do spend to do to increase because of the increase in activity. And so when we have that situation, then it has a ripple effect. What we are working towards is how best we can cure.
The Director of Finance.
Yes, sir.
Gnpc is not the biggest company in the world.
I understand.
You know that.
I know, sir.
A very bigger companies get their accounts ready by 31st of March, ready for audit. So if Gnpc is growing, doesn't mean that your account should not be ready. But what we should look at is, as you said, if auditors, I'm coming back to Mr. Doku, the auditors. Do you appoint auditors for Gnpc on yearly basis, or you appoint auditors for them to audit them for a couple of years?
Honorable Chair, it's on yearly basis, but it can be renewed. So an auditor can be auditing a place for maybe 2 or 3 years based on how he is performing. Thank you.
Does anything prevent you to appoint an auditor, let's say Avaji and Associates, to audit Gnpc for a period of 3-4 years? Does anything prevent you from doing that?
Honorable Chair, thank you. The law is saying it's 1 year. So normally we want them to perform, bringing their reports on time so that it can be incorporated into the Auditor General's notes. So based on that performance.
Which law is that? Is that the Audit Service Act or the Constitution?
It's the Audit Service Act, Honorable.
So now, if you appoint the auditors late to audit Gnpc, why do you expect them to complete the audits on time?
Honorable Chair, I want to touch on this observation before I maybe continue. This one was an observation made by the auditor. So I presume that, and we audit a signed financial statement. We don't audit an unsigned financial statement. So I think that by the time that they reached the financial statement had not been signed. Notwithstanding, like I said, based on the performance. So if we appoint an auditor and the reports are not forthcoming, we cannot renew or reappoint. So that is what happens. But really, if an account is signed, I don't think the auditor would have raised this observation. Thank you.
But then the caption shouldn't be delays in the completion of annual audits. You see, if the account wasn't ready for the auditor to audit, then that should have been the caption. It would have been clear. We understand that the account was not ready for auditor to audit at the time it goes there. So that delays in the audit. But if you say delays in the completion of annual audits, I'll rather put that blame on the audit service. Somebody who sees you say, you didn't appoint the auditor for them on time. That is why there was a delay. All right, so, but I look at the status report and say further action needed. And I think that's what has been explained. So what, we are in April 2022. Is your 2021 accounts ready, Gnpc, for audit? Supposed to be ready by 31st March. 2021 account, is it ready?
2021 account is ready. We done the submission. We did it last week. 2021 is ready.
So you are waiting for the auditor to come, to be appointed?
So now we are going to wait for the Auditor General to do the appointment.
Yes.
Of who the auditor is going to be. Though we have maybe Deloitte auditing, we cannot guarantee that Deloitte will continue.
Okay.
So we have to wait till the appointment is done. And so when that appointment is done, then that auditor will also have to mobilize.
All right.
And so we have that situation continuing.
All right, so audit service, you have to appoint the auditor on time so that we don't continue with this delay thing. Yes. Vice Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. But so the finance manager, right?
Yes, sir.
Your own response to the reason why the financial statement was not signed was because there was no board.
Which one are we looking at?
I'm sorry. It's a different company.
A different one. Yeah, thank you.
That'll be all for Gnpc. You are discharged.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
Now let's have Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company.
The middle button. No, that one. That's already on.
Turn that. And take your so that you can read from me.
I, Francis Irabnisiam,
Swear by the Almighty God.
Swear by the Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give before this committee.
That the evidence I shall give before this committee.
Touching the matter in issue.
Touching the matter in issue.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Kindly introduce yourselves to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Ms. Frances Irabnisiam, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company. This mask, I think I have to get it off.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Philip Kwesi-Beko, Head of Finance and Administration, Ghana Cylinder.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. We'll go straight to the issues raised in the reports of the Auditor General for 2018. And We'll start with ranking member on page 155, paragraph 695. 695 to 708.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. I'm looking at your results, and I noticed that in 2016, your losses moved from 141,000 to 2 million, 2.5 million. Well, that's very big. What happened?
Mr. Chairman, could that question please be repeated?
I'm looking at your statement on profit and loss for the year ended December 2017, table number 33A. Table number 33A. And if you look at the surpluses and deficit, your losses in 2016 of 142,143 cedis moved to 2.5 million in 2017. And I'm asking you, what happened?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was strictly due to staff costs and other operational costs due to the revamping exercise that the company had to undertake because of the circumstance that it was in at that period. It had been in a period of stagnation for quite a long time with practically nothing going on. So obviously, during the revamp, certain costs was incurred, and we had extremely low salaries. For instance, you had staff salaries as low as 400 Ghana cedis, graduates taking as low as 600 Ghana cedis. And because it's an industry, I mean, it will be difficult to retain critical staff if revamping was to be effective or gain any traction. Thank you.
In your accounts, where in particular do you have your staff cost? Is it in general administrative cost? Where is it?
Mr. Chairman, on to page 156. General and administrative expenses. Yeah.
If you have issues, you can ask your accountant to answer the question.
No, he wasn't there at that time.
But were you there?
Yes, I was.
In 2016, you were there?
No, you said 2017.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And I was giving the reason for the rise in cost. General and administrative expenses. And then again, would realize that there were a lot of debts that the company was owing to certain banks, local banks, and to certain Chinese companies. And to avoid international litigation, we definitely had to negotiate and set off some of these costs. Thank you.
I noticed that your general administrative expenses increased by 52%. But I'm not sure that alone can account for the poor performance. Because if you look at your revenue on page 155, you realize that your revenue also dropped by 1.5 million. So it cannot be only the payments you made to your staff that caused your losses. I think it was more due to your shortage of revenue, and that is what I want you to explain to me.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. If you look on page 156, We have at 698, total expenditure in 2017 amounted to 10,444,020 cedis, as compared to the previous year of 962. This was mainly as a result of major repair and maintenance works, coupled with improved conditions of service. So these two factors were very critical. Because if Mr. Chairman, the committee can bear with me, since the establishment of Ghana Cylinder by an act of parliament in 1998, the shareholder had not recapitalized, had not bothered about the company. It was just left to the doldrums. No internal control mechanisms.
Please, it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
If you say the shareholder has not bothered about the company, I think it is not in bad taste. You can say it another way, but I think it's in bad taste.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I withdraw that statement.
Okay.
But I just wanted the depth and agony of the company to be felt by the committee.
Okay. So are you saying that? Are you saying that when your revenue in 2016 you had a revenue of 9.4 million, and in 2017 it dropped to 7.8 million? It's not part of the reason why you made losses. Is that what you are saying?
Mr. Chairman, I've agreed, and we have put explicitly the reasons. We've talked about cost of repairs, maintenance works.
So my question is, what caused the drop in revenue?
The drop in revenue, Mr. Chairman, would be obvious because you pay for the cost in repairs, maintenance, getting the place as an ongoing concern, except there's something else.
I'm talking about sales. Your sales, which in this report is called revenue. And I'm saying that, look at the figures that you have the report. Don't you have the report?
Mr. Chairman, I have the report, but I think...
Yes, so look at the figures so that we can move along.
Yeah, okay, I'll explain and we'll move along. When I took over in 2017, there was already an ongoing audit, which has started in 2016, and which currently is subject to forensic audits, which is not under my control. What happened was that 10 million of company sales, we're not talking about revenue, which was supposed to go to the bank, was unaccounted for. I mean, there were sales of 10 million, but it did not get to the bank. And there were also, so this borders on some issue I came to meet. So obviously, whatever the revenue would be,
Honourable members, order. Madam, the 10 million you're talking about is not part of the report, so don't go there. Leave that one. What you are doing, continue on doing and look for the money. It's not part of this. But you want to blame the loss in 2017 on the staff cost, because you say that you need to, staff were being underpaid, you need to revamp the company, so you need to get more staff, pay them well. Okay, if you didn't get more staff, just pay them. Deputy Ranking, please, can you leave that place and come to your place? Yes. You are not part of the team. Please come here. I beg you. Now, you said you want to revamp the company. Staff were not being paid well, so you need to pay them well. So you are blaming the loss. Honourable members, please. You are blaming the loss on the cost increase in the general and administrative expenses, 2.1% increase over the 2016 figure. And that formed the total, part of the total expenditure of 10.4 million as against 9.6 million of 2016. Now, Rankin was drawing your attention to the revenue. He drew your attention to the revenue. That in 2016, honorable members, why? He drew your attention to
Mr. Chairman.
Your revenue, yes. No, let hear her. Maybe she's not following me. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm following you.
Okay.
And if I may correct the impressions, I took over in May, and some I didn't take over May. I took over midway, and some activity had definitely gone on. I took over.
Wait, let me ask my question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The time you took over is not relevant here. You were sent there to manage the company. So the time of taking over is not relevant. You are seated here. The one who was there you took over from is not here. You are the one here. So please, my question is that ranking member drew your attention to the fact that in 2016, total revenue was 9.4 million. And the cost of sales in 2016 was 6.7 million. So if you want to derive your gross profits, you subtract your cost of sales from your revenue. And your gross profit will be 2.7 million before you set off other expenses. So if you want to find the percentage in terms, what much of your gross profit is a percentage of the revenue, is 28.6%. Okay? So after taking your cost of sales from your revenue, you have 2.7 million ready as gross profit, which is 28.6% of the sales. Then come to 2017. Your revenue is 7.8 million. And your cost of sales in 2017 is 6.8 million. Okay? If you subtract the 6.8 million from 7.8 million, you get a rate of 1 million. In percentage terms, 12.7%. The question is, why is your cost of sales in 2017 too high in order for you to drop your gross profit margin from 28.7% to 12.7%? Why?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Please, I will give explanation to that with two main reasons. So the first will be that in 2016, the company had an opportunity to sell some cylinders and cook stoves to the Ministry of Energy for its various social programs. So that helped in increasing the revenue in 2016. And 2017, that opportunity wasn't there. And again, in 2017, the cost of sales, usually, for instance, in terms of depreciation and other costs like that. So the advantage is when you increase your numbers, you increase your sales numbers. So that increase the sales and then you take advantage. And so that accounted for it.
My friend, you are talking to seasoned accountants here. Okay? Your cost of sales is proportionately related to your sales figure. Volume. Okay? You mentioned depreciation. Depreciation is not used as part of cost of sales. it is not part of cost of sales. Please.
Mr. Chair, please. Depreciation is the direct cost relating to generating your revenue. So, for instance, the machinery we use in production, that cost will be depreciated and will form part of cost.
Now, in 2016, when the company got opportunity to sell cylinders and cook stove to Ministry of Energy, it means that they produce in large quantity to supply and get a revenue. In 2017, you didn't get that opportunity. Means that you did not produce more. Why is the cost of producing less higher than the cost of producing more in 2016? That's the question.
Mr. Chairman, are we talking of the cost of the revenue or
cost of sales?
Cost of sales.
Yes, that is the cost of production. Let's put it that way, because you need to use the cylinder to sell. Yes. The cost of producing the cylinder is your cost of sales, direct cost.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may proffer another explanation, in the last quarter. No, I was just saying that in the last quarter of 2017, maybe this will be my last thing. In the last quarter of 2017, we had to necessarily do some imports, which was sold in 2018. That's in the last quarter. We had to import cylinders in volumes, which were sold, actually production ended, I think, first quarter of 2018. And these were sold in 2018. So I'll attribute this issue to, I think, the decreased sales, not really production, but I think sales decreased around that time.
Madam, again, that is also wrong. If we import cylinders, okay, you did not sell them, they'll be part of your stock. They will not form part of your cost of sales. So it's also wrong by bringing it in here. You import, the goods are there. You've not sold them. Why do you want to add that cost to the cost of sales for what you have sold? No.
Can you put off your mic?
Mr. Chairman, not being an accountant, I think...
That's why I told you to ask the accountant to answer the questions.
Mr. Chairman...
or you didn't bring your accountant?
No, he's here.
So let him answer the accounting questions.
No, Chief, please, where we are at this point, I don't think we have any answer. Thank you.
I haven't finished my questions, so please.
It's for him.
Chairman, let's move to paragraph 703. Paragraph 703. Payment of unapproved allowances to board of directors. 52,000.
Mr. Chairman, this issue came up, and I believe that the audit recommendation was followed, and we followed up to the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance when the board was properly constituted, because these allowances we are talking about, they were fixed not by management but by the board of directors themselves. So we actually wrote to the Ministry of Finance to have the situation corrected. So finance came in, and all these were verified by the Auditor General, because we wrote to the appropriate and relevant authorities to have the situation corrected, and it was corrected.
So the auditors found out that approve of some allowances in contravention of the law. The law requires your the general the company at a general meeting to approve of your allowances, and you are also expected to get approval from the Ministry of Finance. The question is, did you get approval from the Ministry of Finance?
Initially, the infraction occurred because the board determined those things themselves, as you rightly pointed out. But upon the audit recommendation, we wrote to the Ministry of Finance, Energy, and...
Did you get a response from the Ministry of Finance?
Yes, sir. Yes, we did. What they did was to bring in the... what do you call it? They brought in categories, and we were put in category B.
So what letter did you get from Ministry of Finance? Can you show that one to the auditors?
In fact, they should even have it. Mr. Chairman, if you give me, but it had been verified by the Auditor General, because we had the action taken by management.
Do you have a copy of the letter written by Minister of Finance authorizing these allowances?
Yes, sir.
Can you give it to the auditors?
Okay. That's for the Minister for Energy. Okay. There's one here. Auntie Lizzie. Madam. They said we should give it to you, so. And
Auditor, can you verify that these allowances have been approved?
Honorable Chair, yes, the Ministry of Finance's letter showing the categories that they have to be implementing was acquired, and then subsequently they also they follow suit and use that allowances that has been approved by Ministry of Finance to pay their certain allowances of the board. Thank you.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. I'm done.
Honorable Kofi Adams, you are next. And that is paragraph 709 to 722.
Thank you, Chairman. I only wanted to do some follow-up, but since you have already ruled on it, I would go straight to my question. And let me say, the Chief Executive has been a colleague right from the university days. Those times she was very, very active. And when you shout POSA everywhere, you so, and we work politically until we go to a branch. So we are comrades. Madam, you are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me take you to 709. It's to do with purchases that were not accounted for. I believe you received a management report on this audit that some items that were purchased could not be properly accounted for. And the auditors urged you to provide them with detailed receipts to enable them conclude on this audit as far as accounting for those items is concerned. I want to find out what you have done as far as this issue is concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're correct. The audit we accepted their recommendation, and then we ensured that all these were put together and available for their verification, and there was no further action needed. So if I may present the receipts in question.
Well, you hold on, we'll take it later. But were you able to do this within the period that the auditors gave you?
Yes, sir.
Auditors, can you confirm?
Honorable Chair, yes, they have all the documents, GRN, and all the other payment vouchers were provided, and we verified them.
What is the state of affairs now in terms of some of these infractions observed by the auditors? How do you go about issuing things that you purchase to the stores and from stores to anyone who is supposed to maybe utilize it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Due to the multiplicity of infractions, which we'll see as we go along, and the need to go thoroughly by the rules and regulations for the Auditor General or the Audit Service to verify, we've actually followed the strict regime, compliance, having audits on time up until we're just left with 2021 audits. And what happened was that last year, verifiably, Ghana Cylinder, out of 14 state-owned enterprises, out of the, I think, out of the state-owned enterprises, 14 which were compliant, let me rephrase, Ghana Cylinder was included, and this year as well. So we've ensured, after the Auditor General started auditing us, after we put up the internal audit office, our half-year audits, annual audits, all these things, we've ensured strict compliance and verification by the Auditor General. Thank you.
So that's good news that we may not find you appearing before us again in subsequent audits. Well, that's what. Chairman, I'm done with this one. Can I move to the next issue if nobody has a follow-up?
The auditors have confirmed that they have audits now.
Yes, please.
Okay, so move to the next one.
So
you have a follow-up question? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In her response, she said that due to multiplicities of infractions, could she expatiate on what she means by multiplicities of infraction? And the last one is... She said so. She said us will be seen going along. Kofi, allow her to expatiate. No, it was my... He said we will be seeing as we go along. There are a number of issues. I could have asked you the question. I'm asking her to expatiate on it.
Maybe because she has provided that information already. So let's move forward.
I didn't hear that.
Okay. Okay.
The last one is, why did they choose to import cylinders when they had the capacity to manufacture the cylinders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't import cylinder, we import raw material. So I think I would rephrase. We import what we call semi-finished cylinders.
Say it was a slip. You said that you
I'm not saying...
You said that you imported cylinders. That's what I said. And that I took note.
For point of correction, we imported the raw material for cylinder manufacturing. Thank you.
Madam, when you were responding to my question, you said you imported cylinders in 2017. And I said, in that case, once you did not sell them, they are part of your stock. Why are you not saying that you didn't import cylinder, you imported materials?
Mr. Johnson, I'm correct.
You don't have any materials here in Ghana. You always import materials.
The raw material.
So that couldn't have been an exception and for you to provide that information for the reason for why your cost of sales in 2017 was high.
Mr. Chairman, we import raw material to manufacture our cylinders.
But you said you import cylinders. So if you are not correcting yourself, initially you say you imported what? Cylinders.
Chairman, thank you. That's why I'm correcting the initial statement. If it could be put on record, thank you.
So Kofi, go on to your next question.
Thank you. The next infraction, Madam, is non-remittance of withholding tax. You purchase some goods and services for which taxes due were paid to you. You were expected to pay same to GRA. However, at the time of audit, it was observed that this money has not been paid to the GRA, and these have resulted in some loss of revenue to support national development. You have been asked to make sure that immediately you remit same amount plus interest to the Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority. Have you done so? You were to do this without any further delay, and this audit was done in 2018.
Mr. Chairman, we had a series of meetings and interactions with the Ghana Revenue Authority on these issues, which had occurred from 2014 to 2017 financial years. And as we said, due to the precarious conditions of the company, we were not able to pay. But currently, we've made satisfactory arrangement with the GRA in respect of the payment, so that as soon as our financial situation improves, we pay the money to the GRA accordingly.
Madam, your financial situation have not improved, so you have not paid monies you collected from the service providers on behalf of the state to the state. But the very same institution has found it necessary to increase allowances of board members beyond 200% in some cases. You think that this should be accepted?
Mr. Chairman, it's unacceptable, but excuse me. I drink some water. Please, this is unacceptable, and we take full responsibility, and we have interacted with the GRA to make due what is due to them as soon as practicable and as soon as possible. And we had a schedule with the GRA, but unfortunately it had to be extended to mid-year. It had to be extended to mid-year.
Mid-year, which mid-year? Are you talking about mid-year 2022 or mid-year of the time the auditing was done? Mid-year of which year?
Please. I would say that as we moved on, we paid the Ghana Revenue Authority what was due them as and when. But because these things had traversed over time, so you'd find out that any time that the deductions are done, you'd still be owing them some amounts. And I would also like to plead with Mr. Chairman that these audits, unfortunately, had not been done, with due respect to the Auditor General. These audits mostly, like 2014, 15, 16, had not been done then for these infractions to be noted. So I believe that they all culminated in 2017. And as the Audit Service too is aware, we will definitely pay up to the Ghana Revenue Authority and report back to the committee when it is done.
I want to find out whether you have paid at least a CD of the amount stated there. How much have you paid and how much is outstanding? You should be able to at least tell us that out of the 111,651.28 Ghana CD, we have paid so much that we agreed this way and we are following up. Because it's not enough to just tell us that you will, and without giving us what has happened and what is happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would need to go back into our records because we don't have the 2019 records here or 2020. So we plead with the committee to go and then furnish the Auditor General with an update of exactly how much of this amount has been paid and revert back to the committee if that will be permitted.
Well, Mr. Chairman, okay, you.
Chief Executive, this infraction is the reason why you are here. And you are aware of this infraction. So if you say you don't know whether something has been paid or not, then you have to go back to refer. That is unacceptable, with all due respect.
Mr. Chairman, I think the explanation to this is that we applied for waivers and penalties. So all these have been incorporated into the principle that Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company owes the Ghana Revenue Authority. That is why I indicated that would have to revert back to GRA because all our liability to them has been incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, well, I have done the job that you've assigned me. There's nothing to confirm from the auditors because the auditee have have not been able to even state how much they have paid or not paid, beyond assuring that there is arrangement to pay. I observed in their response, Chairman, that they filed for the Commissioner General to waive the interest on the amount, which was done, but unfortunately till now they haven't paid. So I leave that to you to decide.
Yeah, this is a straightforward question. You have not paid, or you didn't remit the money to GRA.
No, Mr. Chairman, like I indicated, I'll hand this over to the Auditor General. I think we may have given them a copy already. But I wanted to indicate that we have a total of 6,240,858 Ghana cedis and 85 pesos, spanning, from 2005, actually. It's been over 13, 14 years. It's a whole lot in there, which I may not be able to explain properly because there are no matters before the committee. So the GRA we had a penalty of, I think, 19 million or 14.5 million, and a total indebtedness of 19 million. But the penalty was 14.5. But because of interactions or negotiations with them, they have incorporated everything into 6 million from 2014 to date. We've been paying our taxes as and when, duties as and when, VAT and so on. So all I plead with the committee is I'd need to get back to the Ghana Revenue Authority on this, so that if this amount can be extracted from...
Is this amount part of what you have there?
Yes, sir.
The 2014, 15, 16, and 17 withholding taxes,
yes, sir,
amounting to 111,000. Is part of what you have there.
Yeah, it's part of the 6 million.
What we have here is the 111,000 in the report of the Auditor General. So we want you to deal with that, and we'll be okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. The difference, which are for different taxes, which the Auditor General, Commissioner General, is negotiating with you. You can continue with that negotiation and have a payment plan. But we are giving you, this committee is giving you 1 week. 1 week to pay the 111,621 Ghana cedis, 28 pesos, and provide evidence to others.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm most grateful for this opportunity. But if I may plead earnestly and fervently with the committee.
That, go ahead.
If I may plead earnestly, if we could have 14 working days.
It's granted, 14 working days.
Thank you, sir.
Pay that money, show evidence to the auditors, that the auditors will come to the committee.
Thank you, sir.
If you fail to do that, we'll ask the GRA to compute the interest and add it to it to pay. That is a condition.
Most grateful, sir. Most grateful, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yes.
Chairman, in response to a question Kofi asked as to why they knew that they were indebted to GR in terms of the remittances, yet increased the allowances of board members, some of them over 200%. I didn't see any clear reason given. However, if I could remind my sister to paragraph 56 of section 1171 of the Income Tax Act 2015, Act 896, which says, among others, that a person who without reasonable excuses fails to pay tax, including an amount treated by this act as if it were tax, on or before the due date, which is about 15 days after the receipt of the money, for payment commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction. And you don't seem to have a reason why you did what you did. You haven't been able to honor that obligation as in the act. You increase the allowances of board members, some up to 200%, and you think that this law should not be applicable. Is it deliberate? If you could tell the committee, because I didn't see any clear reason given why you haven't been able to do that, yet you found comfort in increasing the allowances of board members, some of them up to 200%.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With your leave and permission, we have indicated that when the board of directors met on Thursday, 21st September 2017, just after their induction, they determined their own monthly fees and sitting allowances. And this, Mr. Chairman, you see, the reason why I said that was we actually indicated to them that what was existing was 500 Ghana cedis before they came in. But unfortunately, they wouldn't listen to me and the then accountant, who was asked to go out of the room. And I'm not the accountant, but I called the Ministry of Energy, who said we should write as management. And so we even wrote to the Ministry of Energy. Then the Ministry of Energy, the minister actually, in turn wrote to the Ministry of Finance. And on, this was 21st September. Even before they did this thing, we had written to ask for the incoming board what it should be, because there had been a little rumbling between us and the board. So with due respect, I'm talking of the first board, please. So on 4th September 2018, the Minister for Energy wrote, and this is it, board remuneration. So they notified that in consultation with the Ministry of Finance, they said, we notify you that the Ministry of Energy, in consultation with the Ministry of Finance, is responsible for the setting of board allowances, among others. Would appreciate if this is done with the incoming board. This is a 2018 letter because of the issues you raised. Now, the Ministry of Finance got back to us stating...
The Ministry of Finance has approved it now.
Yes, they have.
Good, that's fine. But very interesting thing that you reveal at the committee is that when the board was appointed and inducted into office, to think about how the company can be reformed, the first meeting is about their pockets.
Yes. The room, me and my HR then, who was taking their minutes. So, Mr. Chairman, with due respect, I apologize on behalf of management, but we believe when it comes to board issues, I shouldn't be saying it this way.
It's okay. Let's move to the next one. Honorable Bauer, paragraph 723 to 735.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, paragraph 723 deals with failure to withhold taxes on board members' allowances. And if you look at the laws from paragraph 723 up to 724 states, this is the Income Tax Act of 2015, which states, among other things, that a withholding agent who fails to withhold a tax in accordance with this shall pay the tax that should have been withheld in the same manner as the tax that is withheld. But contrary to this, Mr. Chairman, there's a table on table 38. There were these board meetings on the 20th of October 2017 and 21st of December 2017, where certain allowances were paid to board members, but they failed. To withhold a tax of 4,400. And Madam, you know, I and you, we all of us sitting here, are being paid through the taxes. All of us, before our salaries are paid to us, taxes are. But if you go on, Mr. Chairman, paragraph 727 says that board members' resistance to the tax deduction on their allowances resulted in this anomaly. But I believe, yes, that is in on paragraph 727. And this omission denied government a tax revenue of 4,400. Madam, but you know, you should have deducted it before even paying them. So why this anomaly? And then what is the status now? Have you been able to retrieve these monies and pay it back to GRA?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start bottom top. The monies have been paid to the GRA. The pay-in slips were given, were sent to the Auditor General Service for verification. And I think, despite the resistance, we had to write a whole lot of letters to the board and ensure that we chase them for them to pay the amounts. And so we have them over here. And I think the Auditor General too has same. We really had to chase them for the amounts. Because what really occurred was, until we stopped the direct, Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to find out from the auditors whether these monies have been paid.
Honorable Chair, yes, the paying slips was cited. Thank you.
And I would like to find out from the auditors as well as Madam, whether subsequent payments to board members, the taxes have been taken from them.
Mr. Chairman, since then, the taxes have been duly taken.
AG, subsequent audit. Mr. Chairman, if there's no other question on that, I'll move to the next infraction, which also deals with unaccounted Imprest of 10,000 Ghana cedis. And Madam, like you know, regulation 2881 of the Financial Administration Regulation 20802 states, Imprest shall be retired at the close of a financial year, and any Imprest not so retired shall be adjusted to a personal advance account in the name of the Imprest holder. And the auditors noted that an amount of 120,000 Ghana cedis was granted to an accounts officer, Bright Fofo Ayeduvo, as the office accountable Imprest between June and December 2017. However, an amount of 10,000 for the period was not accounted for. Neither has it been adjusted to a personal advance account in the name of the Imprest holder. I would like to find out from you, what's the status now? Has the Imprest been retired, or has the money been advanced? I mean, tends to advance in the name of the Imprest holder as stipulated by the Act?
Mr. Chairman, the money as Imprest was retrieved from the said officer and paid into GCMC bank account with the reference number and the pay-in slip, and sent to the Auditor General for verification as they recommended. I'll however, want to inform the committee that what we call unaccountable Imprest has been cancelled in Ghana Cylinder since then.
Auditors, can you confirm whether this money has been retrieved?
Honorable Chair, yes, it was retrieved and paid into the bank account. The paying slip was cited. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I think that will be all for me.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the next one, which is paragraph 736, unplanned procurement. The auditors review the entity tender committee meetings, the minutes, and they disclose that the company submitted a draft procurement plan for 2017 to the committee for review and approval on the 29th of August 2018, after the related year 2017 had already ended. Now, the auditors say that this indicated that all the contracts which were awarded in 2017 financial year were not planned. So the auditors went on to advise management to comply with relevant provisions of the procurement law in awarding future contracts and procurement of goods. Management, in their response, accepted the recommendation for compliance. The question is, do you now comply with the procurement law?
Yes, Honorable Chairman.
Auditors, your subsequent audits, do you observe if they comply with the law now?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Paragraph 743, non-existence of procurement unit. The auditors noted that you don't have a procurement unit. You don't have a procurement unit, and so the recommendation of the auditors is that management and the board of directors should establish a procurement unit headed by the secretary of the entity tender committee and staffed it with the requisite personnel in compliance with the procurement law within 30 days after the receipt of the management letter, the failure of which section 92(1) of the Procurement Act of 2003 at 63 as amended by section 51A of the Public Procurement Amendment Act 2016 as 914 shall be enforced against the management of the company. Management accepted our recommendation and stated that as soon as the board is constituted, steps will be taken to establish the procurement unit. Management also stated that despite the recruitment of staff to establish the procurement unit, the required competence was not met. Now, brief us, tell the committee if you have complied with this recommendation by establishing the procurement unit at the company.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A procurement unit has been established and properly staffed.
Can auditors confirm this or otherwise?
Honorable Chair, yes, it's been done.
All right. So it means that we can move to the next one, which will be done by the ranking member, paragraph 749 to 755.
Thank you, Chairman. Improper method of procurement. Here, the impression is that about 7 procurements were made without due regard to the limits of the chief executive of the institution. So my first question is, Madam, do you know your limits when it comes to contract award?
Mr. Chairman, subsequently, before I didn't know, but subsequently I have known.
So what are your limits?
According to procurement, my limit as head of entities 100,000.
Okay. So some of the contracts you awarded were up to 17 million, some were even 26 million. And the recommendation is that you write to the tender board or public procurement authority to rectify these anomalies. Has this been done?
Mr. Chairman, this has been done.
And they have responded to your letters or your request for approval?
Yes, it was done, and then we sent it to the PPA sent in an audit team to find out the reasons why. So after the PPA audit, the ratification.
They give you the ratification?
Yes, sir. And we sent it to the Auditor General.
Auditor, can you confirm whether this was ratified?
Procurement agency.
Oh. Honorable Chair, the PPA approval letter was verified. Thank you.
Okay. And then subsequently, Madam, I hope that you are not breaking this infraction anymore.
Mr. Chairman, these infractions are no longer there, and the contracts, the sums you're seeing, they have even been rescinded mutually by both parties. So the Auditor General will even be notified during the 2020 audit.
Thank you, Chairman. That'll be all for me. Okay.
Let me do a follow-up with this question. You, in your answer to the question by the ranking member, you said that previously you know, and now you know. Let me find out from you, is ignorance of the law an excuse?
Mr. Chairman, ignorance of the law, I agree, is no excuse. But I believe sincerely that it was collective responsibility. And as chief executive, ultimately, I think it rests on my shoulders. Because I stated initially that there were no internal control mechanisms at all. And due to the state and the need to revamp, I think in haste, we moved ahead. So we accepted the infraction and abided by the recommendation and took the necessary action. And we have ensured that this no longer happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so it means that Section 51 of the Public Procurement Amendment Act 2016 at 914 has been breached. And you know the sanctions there.
Mr. Chairman, we will plead with you.
No, I haven't gotten there. You know the you know the sanctions in Section 51 of the Act, the amended Act.
Mr. Chairman, except you refresh my mind, because I don't have the law before me as I sit.
Yeah, the sanction is that once you breach the law, you are punished by a fine or an imprisonment or both. The imprisonment will not exceed 5 years. The fine will not exceed, help me, is it 5,000 or 2,500 penalty units? And one penalty unit is 2 days, so that gives you 30,000. So a very nice judge can give you 2,500 penalty unit, you pay and you go. That's 30,000. Another judge will give you, well, you go to prison 5 years, and you don't pay the money. Or a third judge will give you, pay the fine, and then go to jail in addition. So, since the ignorance of the law is not an excuse, I'm not sure that you will blame this committee if we recommend for a prosecution.
Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't blame you, but I'll also plead with you that once the actions and the breach had gone before the Auditor General and they had given us a set of instructions or actions to take, and we had complied in total with those actions, then I believe that there must be some mitigation circumstances which would.
Auditors, why are you know very well that they have violated the law. Why are you giving them some action to take? Because you said in paragraph 754 that we advise management to write to the Public Procurement Authority to ratify these contracts in accordance with section 53 of the procurement law as amended. Why are you asking them to write for ratification? Auditors, can you provide answer to this?
Honorable Chair, in fact, maybe under the circumstances, the team, I think, thought it wise to give that recommendation.
Does it lie in the mind or the bosom of the team to decide on that? Is that what the law says, that the auditor can decide, knowing very well that the law has been breached? The auditor can decide there to not to apply or refer the person to the appropriate quarters for action to be taken. Does the law allow that?
Honorable Chair, no, but I think, like I said, under the circumstances, maybe the team thought that they can ratify the situation.
We don't know the circumstances. And I'm asking, why should the team think under any circumstances to take this action? Does the law allow the team to go that line? That's my question. Why should the team do that? So should we now refer the punishment that she should take, should we now refer it to that punishment should be meted on the team? Because look, if you can go to award a contract supplier installation of 1,000 pieces of 8-hour cylinder production plant costing 26 million without going through the process, without going through procurement process. And the team will think that it is under what circumstances to say that, oh, write to the authority for ratification. Clerk, take note of this. I think that the Auditor General is, will note it, that they have taken an action which the committee think that is not proper. Note it down.
Mr. Chairman, if I may come in.
Yes.
I believe sincerely that I rather try to set up a procurement office. And I believe sincerely that from 2014 up to the time I came in, no proper audits had taken place. 15, 16, they were in abeyance. Again, there's a heavy-duty industry. And so anybody coming in to revamp, I'm not saying that the process was right or wrong, but I will crave your indulgence that looking at the prevailing circumstances, there was no board, there were no appropriate...
Madam, I think you have said this in over and over.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
So I think we know that. You talk about 2014, 15, 16, no audit. The infraction is not committed in 2014. It's 2017.
Mr. Chairman,
so you did it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm saying that when I came in, if you look at the time span, there had been no audit. And I'm saying 2017, there had been no audit.
But that doesn't give you...
And even outside that, I'm saying there had been no procurement office, no internal control mechanism. And I wasn't the sole person.
So you are free to do anything?
No. I'm saying I wasn't a sole person sitting behind my desk awarding a contract.
You are the head of the entity.
Absolutely. That's why...
The bank starts with you. You take the final
Mr. Chairman, that's why I'm saying that I crave your indulgence. Because before a court of law, there are always mitigating circumstances. And that's what I've explained to you.
Do you want me to refer you to court so that you go and make the argument in court?
Absolutely not.
Then stop it. Honorable Sophia.
Chairman, I would like to find out from the Chief Executive if she was handing over notes when she took over. Were you handing over notes when you took over?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I was handing over notes.
If you were giving handing over notes, did you bother to find out from the one who handed over to you the issues that you didn't understand and what went on there before you took over?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I tried to find out because during the handing over period, I recognized that a receptionist was doing customs duties and HR was doing the imports of the company. So I knew that something was wrong. And the National Service personnel was actually doing what we call deputy accounts manager. And I found out, like you go to the post office in the olden days, receipts were being put on sticks, like some stick that the receipts are put in there. And I also found out, Honorable Chair, in answer to the question, I also found out that monies were being kept in safes, and the monies could claims of theft without reports to police could come in, and those monies even were never returned. And I'll leave it because, as Honorable Chair said, it's not part of matters before the committee. It's for forensic. So in fact, everything was in total disarray. There were no documents, even on contracts with over 12 Chinese companies. There were no contracts. Even to trace, the contracts were implied. All was what do you call them, bill of ladings of imports that had come in. And then GRA documents that will tell you that duty, the what you call ex-warehousing, some form of duty arrangements had been made. But beyond that, there were no files as we set then for me even to go through and find out that, oh, this is it, this is it. And I came to meet a management. So I think the last time I came before the committee, I stressed that managerial incompetence had led to those situations, if Honorable Chairman could remember. Now, on realizing these things...
Madam, thank you very much. We are suspending sitting for 30 minutes. We'll come back and continue. Suspending for 30 minutes. We are going back to the chamber. We'll come back in 30 minutes. Thank you very much.